Guys, UFC 289 is this weekend, and my partners, DraftKings Sportsbook, are offering new customers $200 in bonus bets instantly. All you have to do is sign up using the promo code Sonnen and bet just $5. That's right, new customers can bet just $5 on any of this weekend's fights and receive $200 in bonus bets instantly. Use the $200 in bonus bets on DraftKings Same Fight Parlay. This is going to give you a shot for an even bigger payout. Combine multiple bets together from the same fight, including number of rounds and method of victory. The more bets you combine, the more money you can win. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy with the chance to win huge cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. New customers, use promo code Sonnen. Bet just $5 on any wager and get 200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code Sonnen only at DraftKings Sportsbook. I will be the first to advocate for you. You have to be careful what you let into your bubble. Some could call that brainwashing. Some could call that delusion. It's also important, and it's effective. So in the case of the topic that we're talking about today, in the world of athletes, if something has happened to you that throws everything off that you need to be true for you to reach your goal, sometimes you got to throw it out like it never happened. Like it absolutely never happened. I had this, I say this to be very respectful of my opponent, Demian Maia. But I had a match with Demian Maia, who was smaller for the division, and he didn't have a lot of experience within the sport of MMA. And even the 4 or 5 matches that he did have, he submitted everybody, so he didn't get a whole bunch of minutes in. He wasn't a main event and a highest paid guy. I mean, I'm just sharing for you. I really needed to win that fight. I really needed to win that fight. I just beat the number 1 guy in the world. I just beat a guy who would crush him. I got to win this fight. And being stronger than him, being bigger than him, being more experienced than him. It wasn't just that he got his hand raised. There was nothing in those couple of minutes that we were out there. There was nothing that was competitive from my standpoint. Like we didn't go to the ground because I was fighting him with the jab and slipping inside. There was nothing about that I could take with me down my journey. And there was nothing about that if I accepted as real, that I could continue to keep the dream of being the world champion. It was a problem. That night, that experience in those minutes, if those are real, if that is a reality, then me in this sport with championship dreams isn't going to happen. So it was tough. It was one of these spots. And the only thing that I could do, the only thing is to block it from it. I have to be reminded that I fought Demian Maia. I've had people ask me about oh my God, I enjoyed his career. I watched him. I saw him do all these. I forget that I'm part of it. You've got to know what to block out. I'm a supporter of that. That's my only point. So I don't give a guy a hard time. I know that it's important, but there's rules to it. If you're going to play that game, there's rules to it to keep yourself in check. Charles Oliveira had nothing competitive in his fight with Islam Makhachev. There was not a redeeming quality. You know, you have a fight, just by example, boom, my left hand, he was having a hard time, boom, boom, my left hand, right, it's one of these spots. But because you were irritating him so much, he switched something up. And it was that something that gave you the problem. So you come away with now a correction to his correction, and you think if you do it again, you can keep him in the spot, right? It's one of these things. There was none of those things within the fight. There wasn't a left hand, a right hand, a left leg, a right leg, a double leg, a defense, a omoplata, a go right down. Who's more tired than who? Who's breathing hard? Who's fatiguing? There was nothing about Charles's performance that if you did it again and took that one good thing and sprinkle a little exponential by 5 factor that would lead anybody to think that you're going to get a different outcome. Charles has come out and said that wasn't me. And he hasn't offered us anything else. That wasn't me that night. And I'm well aware of the off night response. It wasn't me, it wasn't my day. I'm well aware of all of those things. I'll just share with you, when I talk about this game has rules, right? When you're going to be a delusion, but sometimes you got to, there's a fine line in genius and insanity. And some of these athletes that have these crazy dreams, for them to become a reality, right, you would have got laughed at. Look at LeBron. If LeBron would have told you in 5th grade what he was going to go on to do and achieve and win and be recognized, if he was to tell you in 5th grade, they would have told him he was crazy. They would have laughed at him. Likely he did tell someone, and likely they did laugh at him. And I only offer this as an example because that is a built-in piece. You're going to have delusion. You're going to have some craziness. When I talk about rules, Charles has to be able to go further and say, wasn't my night. I was sick in the back, by example. It wasn't my night. I had a family tragedy that I've never spoke about, just by example. It wasn't my night. But then you'd fill in the blanks, even things that people have been teased for. I'll use Paulo Costa. He couldn't sleep and he had some wine, still didn't sleep, so he had even more wine. And if you want to give him a hard time for that, fair enough. But he's now identified what the problem was, and he believes that he would have a different match had he not had the bad night of sleep followed by self-induced wine. It's very relevant. Whether you want to give a hard time to that or not, it's relevant that that exists. Charles Oliveira doesn't have that. He didn't follow the rules. He didn't follow the rules to the game. The rules to the game of acceptable delusion, of blocking what's in your bubble as a form of mental toughness. You know how hard that is to do? You know how hard that is to do, to take a piece of reality that happened and even damaged you, even if emotionally, and block it out that it didn't happen? You know the mental skill that requires? There's rules to it. And Charles has not offered or followed those rules. Charles' excuse of I had an off night, it's a very true thing. Some nights, you guys hear about adrenaline dump and some of these other things, but nobody takes the time to explain to you what they actually mean. There's a truth to it, but when Charles says, give me a rematch, I had an off night, when he doesn't offer the next step, it also comes with an inference that Islam didn't. That's the problem with the thinking. Is there's a built-in now belief that Islam did not have a bad night. You felt bad, your arm hurt. But now there's a belief that the guy that beat you's arm did not hurt. And I've never known of anyone to go into a fight feeling great. I've never heard of anybody going into a title fight or a championship match feeling great. I just haven't heard of it. I know when I watch sport that is done in a competitive architecture such as a bracket, and that could be anything. That could be high school sport, that could be NCAA, that could be the Olympic, but I know when the gold medal, when the championship match rolls around, before the athletes walk out there, for whatever the sport is, if you watch them, they got ice on their knee. They got tape on their fingers. They got a coach rubbing something out. They don't feel good. Nobody feels good. So when you imply, I didn't feel good, you're trying to say that he did. I just share with you, therein lies the problem. Charles had an off night. That's a real thing. Islam's going to hear that, go, man, that's a real thing. I'm probably going to have to deal with another Charles. Unless Islam knows, you had an off night. My God, that wasn't even supposed to be out there. And there's rules to the delusion. What is going to be different this time? What is going to be different next time? What did I learn from that? How am I going to cure that? What have I corrected? What have I changed? Like, these things are really important to know and have and understand. And when Charles chose to go the route of blocking reality from his bubble, he didn't offer enough. Man, Don't forget, guys, when you do these lies is a terrible word, but when you do these lies, it doesn't matter if you fool me. Doesn't matter if it fools you. Doesn't matter if it fools your opponent, your coaches, Dana White himself. When you tell the lie, you have to believe it. If Charles is going to go out there and deal with Islam and flip a script that was so drastically against him, nothing about that match was competitive. If he's going to do that, he has to convince himself that something's different. And if he doesn't have new partners, if he's not running faster times, if he's not lifting heavier weights, if he knows in his heart there is nothing different, then he has to convince himself that that night was off, and here's why. That's the rule to this game. And Charles didn't follow the rules.